Hello YouTube, this is Dan Man doing a slightly different kind of video today. I was playing Europa with some buddies the other day, and one of them is having some trouble playing as England with his war against the French. So I wanted to try my hand at making a Europa Universalis tutorial. Now I am not really an expert at the game, but I have over 1,000 hours, so I'm pretty decent at it. I don't really min-max too much. I kind of just roleplay as whatever country I'm playing as. So I've never done any crazy world conquests or anything like that. But I think, probably my most ambitious game, I took over almost all of Asia as the Yuan. I never ended up finishing the game, but I know enough to get by. So yeah, I just wanted to make a short tutorial showing how to win the 100 Years' War as England. And I apologize for the poor quality. I didn't realize my stream quality was that low, which is what I was using to record. And unfortunately, the run is actually nearly perfect, so I didn't want to try and re-record it. But hopefully we can get past that. It's not terrible. You can still read the words for the most part, assuming there's no like weird compression on YouTube's side. Which now that I say that, there probably is. Regardless, yeah. So let's get into it. So I'm just sort of watching the video here, and then I'm going to have to edit the audio over the video so you can see what's going on. This was all in Iron Man, so there was no like restarts halfway through or funky editing. So the first thing I do is I just pick my rivals. It doesn't really matter. You just kind of want to rival France and Scotland, at least for like the extra war score and power projection when you go to war with them. Then the first thing I do is I take the Parliament agenda to reduce the land maintenance modifier, the quartering of troops issue. That's extremely important because 10% less cost for troops is a significant amount, because we're going to be losing 60 to 80 ducats a month because of the mercenaries that we have to hire. So that adds up to a lot over time. By the end of this war, we're actually going to be about 20 loans deep, including the 5 indebted to the burgher loans. Now I'm just adding some parliament seats just because I don't actually know that much of the impact. I just put them in those 3 because they produce a decent amount as far as the product that they make, the trade good. And then the next thing I do here is I select my advisors. There's 2 that are cheap that you get for half price, so I always pick them. Sometimes they don't show up, which is weird, but they do 90% of the time. And then I take the military advisor to increase fort defense, which is good because it'll slow the French down. If you don't have that, a morale advisor or a discipline advisor is also fairly decent. I don't actually fight too many battles in this war. I ended up taking over most of France with their troops all down in Aragon. So there wasn't a whole lot of fighting, and at one point we ended up just stack wiping them, and we didn't have any contest. I'm not going to take that act right now just to speed up my institution spread, but you can go back and take that later once you actually have maybe like the Protestant Reformation, or you choose to go Anglican or whatever. And then the next thing I do here is I unstate Gascony. Both states, and I exploit the development in those 2 states just to get a little bit of extra money and manpower and all that in London. And then, and I apologize, my nose is a little stuffy here today. And then you release Gascony because they have cores over a significant portion of southern France, and you get that for less aggressive expansion. And I think a little bit cheaper as far as war cost goes, but I might be wrong about that. Regardless, it's a good idea to release Gascony. You can get the personal union just as easily in this war, but it's so hard to keep it. It's almost worth it just to break France up into a couple of chunks and then annex them, because even even in the games where I've taken the personal union, you know, first of all, you have the War of the Roses going on, so there's a good chance that Henry dies and you lose the personal union immediately, because if they don't have a positive opinion of you when your king dies, you lose the union. Um, and then also, it's just they're constantly at like 80% disloyalty, and then everyone who hates you is trying to support their independence. So it's a lot of hassle. I think it's easier just to break them up into a couple of chunks. Maybe what you want to do is release Gascony, then maybe Toulouse next. I don't speak French, so I'm not going to pronounce these correctly. Maybe Champagne. They have a lot of cores up in northern France. And then personal union, maybe just the core chunk of them. Because you do get another opportunity through missions to personal union them later. But the War for the Surrender of Maine kicks off as a restoration of the Union War, so you have that casus belli automatically, even without taking the mission. And then here I check and I see that Aragon is rival to France. Normally it'll be Castile or Aragon. You can win this war alone. I've done it before with no help. It makes it significantly easier if you can call in either Aragon or Castile. I think Aragon's actually slightly easier because I think they have some more mountains, and they have a couple of better forts, and that just causes more attrition for the French. But it doesn't particularly matter, because you just need them there so that the French attack them instead of attacking you. Because in a war, the AI will always prioritize the weakest opponents first, and they are weaker than you. And then here I turn off the crappy music. And then you can just combine your navy for now. I'm starting to sail my troops over. Now, there is one thing I forgot to do. I think technically the halberd infantry are better until military tech 4. So if you want to, you can switch to them and give that a shot. Here, though, I win it with just the Latin medieval infantry, so you don't have to do that. You're going to take all the monopolies you can because you need that extra money. I think you can take the trade fleets one as well, but you don't need to, and you might want to avoid that if you're going to colonize later. So you can take that, the one that increases your settlers. And then I go back in a minute here, and I take indebted to the burghers as soon as the war kicks off. But for now, you can avoid it just to save a little bit more money. And then I'm going to royal marriage and ally Austria as well, just for some assurance, so that like Burgundy doesn't attack you while you're weak. Yeah. And if you want to, you can also delete the forts in the two southern forts in England, in London and Montgomery, I believe, because the Scottish shouldn't make it that far. I just leave them up because it's not that much money, but you know, it's up to you. And of course, make sure you add Talbot as your general to one of them. He's a very decent general. I'm going to split the cavalry up because you don't benefit from having more than 4 cavalry in an army. Yeah, definitely don't go too hard as far. Yeah, definitely don't go too hard as far as min-maxing like the battles goes. Now, I got lucky here. So the Scottish declared war on an Irish one province minor, which meant that their army was over in Ireland when the war started. You also saw there I ended up opposing the Lollards, which, if you want to stay Catholic, which is probably the best for colonizing, it's better to stay Catholic so you get the Treaty of Tordesillas. But if you wanted to go Protestant, which isn't terrible either, or Anglican or whatever, you want to oppose the Lollard, or you want to not oppose the Lollards. But if you want to stay Catholic, you should oppose the Lollards for that extra papal influence every year. And then here you can see the Surrender of Maine popped up. Now you actually have, I think, 6 months before you have to select one of the options. So what you want to do then is, as soon as this pops up, take indebted to the burghers and get your mercenaries up. And then once they get to around half morale, I always just start the war just so that you don't accidentally, because it always chooses the top option. So here, if you let it tick past the 6 months accidentally, it would immediately surrender Maine to them. But yeah, so you just want to, and here what I do is I take an independent army, put the Grand Company up in Scotland to fight them. It might actually be better to put the independent army in Scotland just to have a little bit more troops to fight them if they're aggressive. They weren't very aggressive in this war. I take the fort and that's it. But the Grand Company, you can transport without building additional transport ships. So that's why I put that up there. Then you take Free Company because they're basically free. They're so cheap. And the Gallowglass because they have a 5 shock general and 2 siege. Then as soon as they are up and ready to go, I will war off. And the French are immediately going to blitz the fort in Gascony. So you don't have to worry about them bum rushing you up north. You can just start sieging down forts. At least that's how it goes nearly every time I've fought this war. I've never had them come up north till later on. And then so I'm just going to start sieging down the fort in Anjou first with the 2 siege general, because all you need to do to get Provence out of the war, they have about 8 to 12,000 troops between them and Lorraine, which is their personal union. So that's a good chunk to get out of the war. All you need to take is that 1 fort in Anjou. So as soon as that's done, you can get rid of them. And of course, you want to siege down as many forts as you can at the same time. The only other one you have access to right now is Chartres. I know it's probably like Chartres or something like that, but I'm not going to even try to pronounce it. And then call Aragon in, promise them land. It doesn't matter because they don't even get a negative opinion of you unless you peace out France before they get pieced out. But in my war, France blitzes them hard and takes a bunch of their land. They get pieced out. And then you can keep the alliance afterwards if you want. I wouldn't actually choose to because there's better things to do with your diplomatic relations, especially with Austria as your ally. You take the Grand Company and start sieging down the fort in Dumfries. Then you can move your navy up because you get a siege bonus from having your navy off the coast of a fort. So you want to move that up to help the siege out in Dumfries go faster. And then that speeds it up significantly. I also took a admiral there. I don't actually think you need to. But I just did just in case. Yeah, and then for now we're just sieging stuff down. The sieges are actually going pretty well. Chartres is already down to 0%. You can see the Aragon and the Ease are getting beat pretty bad down there right now. We're about to lose the fort in Roussillon. They do actually siege down the fort in Haute-Potoy, which is actually very good. Normally that's just another road bump for you. It makes the war take a little bit longer, but that's no big deal. You normally don't even have to get 100% war score. I do in this war, but you don't need to. If you can get away with taking a lot just by taking the northern sections of France. Now you won't be able to vassal feed Gascony like I do here, but you can certainly beat some money out of them. Maybe take a couple of provinces in the north, a couple of tiles in the north, and then release other vassals like Champagne. And then so we got that fort, and now we're going to move on to Paris and Orleans. And we win the siege of Anjou, so I'm going to take some money. I tried to pillage their capital, but they didn't want that. And then you can get them out of the war. And let me just make sure. And then I'm going to move this army up to start taking some of those northern tiles from the French. If anything, just so they can't produce guys there later. Because they have a bad habit of just raising entire armies if you leave any of those tiles unsieged. I guess because of the mercenary mechanics that are still relatively new to the game as of Emperor. And then here the Scottish crossed the strait, but I ended up beating them because their army was smaller than mine. And you can just take a little bit of money and white piece them out. It's mainly important just to focus on the French here, so you don't really want to try and take too much from the Scottish or the Provincians. And then you can, from this point, just go ham on the French because you don't really have anything else to worry about. Just keep your guys within like a tile of each other. Keep a little line going. And they shouldn't be able to beat you. You should have enough mercenaries to outright beat them in a one-on-one fight. Just remember, if you're attacking them, to try and attack in like fields terrain. There goes Paris. I'm not going to take the mission because I might want to get a personal union over them later on. I don't want to lose that Casus Belli right away. All you need to do is occupy Paris to complete that mission. So you can, at any point in the future, take the mission and get the personal union Casus Belli. And then right now we're just going right down the line. And then here you can see how to split up in Carpet Siege if you haven't done that before. You just split the armies into a bunch of... Because you only need 1,000 guys to siege down a tile. You want to put 2,000 just because sometimes they'll take some attrition losses. And they'll go down to like 0.9 instead of 1,000. And then they can't siege down the tiles, which is annoying. And then you're going to see the French start to push up here in a second. I have to actually start fighting them. But as you can see, we've taken most of France without even fighting a single battle yet, aside from the one in Scotland. And I'm going to try to save these guys, but there's nothing I can do. I ended up giving up the siege in Narbonnaise, which I might not have done if I did it over again, but it doesn't particularly matter. We end up coming back anyway. If I had left the guys there, though, I might have actually saved myself a loan or two. And another thing, too, is if that had been a regular army and not a mercenary army, you can leave one guy on and it'll preserve the siege. But with the mercenaries, they have to go as a stack, so you can't split one guy off. And then those guys get a little ahead of themselves, but it's okay because the rest of my armies are going to come back and push back the French. Let's start sieging down these mountain tiles. And then here I get sort of lucky. I was very close to getting in a large battle. I may have still won. But because the French were exiled because they pieced out the Aragonese, they couldn't get all their armies in that fight. And that allowed me to just take out these tiny little stacks. Then it ended up popping up with absolutely no issues at all. And then, right around now, I think the last French army is that one up on the coast. And then you're going to see we're going to stack wipe that in a little while here. And then the French are going to have absolutely no guys on the field. We'll be free to just siege down their tiles. And and not worry about anything. I'm going to take care of these rebels just so I get the extra war score from holding the tile. Yeah, and again, it's if you want the personal union, it's only 60% war score. So you could have pieced them out a while ago, if you were only aiming for that. But since I do want a little more, I want some money, and I want to feed Gascony a little bit. We're going to push all the way to 100. Now here, I just picked the better leader. He had a few more pips or a few more monarch points. So I just went with York, I think. That time. Doesn't particularly matter though. And actually, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you winning the War of the Roses on top of this, just so you know that it's definitely possible. It's not too difficult, but you can sort of just see how to end the war within like 1 or 2 battles. As you can see, we have like 5. We have 5 sieges going on at once here, and the French can't do anything about it because they have no guys. Oh, well, they have 1 guy. Just he's like, nope, I'm getting out of there. I actually totally forgot I had the Free Company up there. I would have been using them to siege stuff down. Here, the army professionalism is nice just because you can use that to get extra manpower in the military tab. Get rid of the rebels just so we don't have to fight them for the land. We're getting to, there's 99% war score. And here I was actually looking for the 2 siege army because I lost them. I didn't realize I already had them on the fort. But now you can start deleting some extra stacks. Just so you can sort of curb your losses a little bit. And there's the last thing. We're at 100% war score. So we can do whatever the hell we want with the French. So what I'm going to do... Now, I was trying something here. I didn't know if return core was cheaper than just giving the land to them. But I ended up just returning their cores. You can take all but Armagnac if you want to feed Gascony all of their cores in this with 100% war score. I actually chose to give them everything but Armagnac and Béarn. And then I took 500 ducats from the French in exchange for that, which is helpful because then you can start to pay off a couple of your loans. And I think by the end I was actually making about 3 or 4 ducats a month, which isn't a lot, but then you can actually start to pay off the loans in addition with maybe some favors to Aragon and Austria and your other allies to get some of their monthly income to help speed up paying off those loans. And here we go. As you can see, I fed Gascony a lot. France is not going to recover from that. You can go ahead and concentrate development in all of their states now, and you'll get a lot more than if you had done it earlier when they were only a 2-province country. As you can see, I now have more development than France. We can get rid of all these extra mercenary armies. Actually, I tried to keep the Grand Company to fight the rebels up north, but I think I ended up deleting them because they wouldn't fit on the transport ships or something to that effect. And here you want to start boosting your stability. To make it cheaper, I'm trying to get a stability cost modifier advisor. And so you're just kind of booting these guys out of office until one that you like comes up. The transport ships are especially screwy after the last update, so I don't know if they couldn't actually transport those guys or if it was just an issue. But I ended up just hiring one more mercenary company for just one battle and then getting rid of them. I'm going to designate Calais as a staple port because 10 mercantilism is not terrible. Start moving up north here. Got some Lollard heretics. Want to get rid of them as soon as possible. And I just got the cheapest guys available. There we go. 10% stability cost. Boost that up. And then I thought you actually had to get to +1 stability, but you don't. You just have to be at +0 and then have no rebel-controlled provinces. And then so I'm going to let these guys get some morale before I charge them in. Not that it really matters, because it's just the mercenaries dying. As you can see, I'm hovering over this, waiting for it to tick up so I can... But I ended up not needing to. Another thing I forgot to mention too is you want to build spy networks in France, Scotland, and Provence if you can. Not all three of them, at least France, because that speeds up your sieges. So as you can see, I have 72% spy network in France right now. That's definitely important to speeding up your conquest and taking their forts before they can get out of Aragon or Castile and come back to fight you. And we ended the War of the Roses. I was a little surprised because, again, I thought I had to get to +1 stability. Take the mission. -10 aggressive expansion is pretty good. And there we have it. That's winning the... I guess not entirely winning the 100 Years' War, but definitely shifting the balance in your favor. And then what you're going to want to do is pay off some of the loans with higher interest. You don't want to accidentally pay off the 1% interest loans. As you can see, I had 21 loans there at the end at my maximum. And then what you're going to want to do is start getting your economy rolling. Have the light ships start protecting trade. Mothball the rest of your navy to save money. You could also get rid of your advisors if you wanted to recover a little bit quicker. You can sell your titles. That gives you a ton. 18% isn't terrible as far as Crownland goes. I wouldn't go any lower than that if you can help it. And then you can just start paying off these loans. There we got 362. You can decrease your fort maintenance all the way down. You really don't have to worry about getting attacked for a little while here, especially if you're allied to Austria and Aragon. You can trade favors for ducats from your allies, which is a great way to get some extra money going. You can even exploit development, which I wouldn't do personally, but it's an option there. Especially since we have so much development like London now from all the exploiting we've done. And yeah, that is about it. That's how you win the... I guess... That's how you win the War of Maine. Just... Alrighty.